After 20 years of marriage, I thought I knew my husband. I thought he loved me, respected me, valued the life we'd built together. I was wrong. On a random Tuesday night over cold meatloaf and a beer, he looked at me and said 3 words that shattered everything. "You're completely useless." No argument, no warning, just a verdict delivered like a judge passing sentence. He said I'd never worked, never contributed, never been anything but a burden. He said he deserved better. And then he left. He had no idea that useless woman was about to become the most dangerous thing he'd ever encountered. Hello. Welcome to Hurt Stories. Let me tell you about the woman I used to be. Her name was Alina, same as me, but she was a different person. She was 23 when she got married, wide-eyed and hopeful, convinced she'd found the man she'd spend the rest of her life with. His name was Robert. He was 27, handsome, ambitious, already climbing the corporate ladder. He swept her off her feet, promised her the world, and for 20 years she believed him. I was that woman. For 20 years I was Alina, wife of Robert, mother of his children, keeper of his home, manager of his life. I was everything he needed me to be, and nothing I needed to be for myself. I gave up everything for that marriage. Not because he asked me to, he never had to ask. It was just understood. He had a career, I had support. He had ambitions, I had dreams of his. He had a future, I had whatever was left over. I'd gone to college briefly. 2 years before we met, I'd wanted to be a teacher. I loved children, loved the idea of shaping young minds, loved the thought of having my own classroom, my own purpose. But Robert said teaching was fine for some people, but his wife didn't need to work. His wife would be taken care of. So I stopped. I dropped out, got married, and became Mrs. Robert Hamilton. The first few years were good, really good. We were in love, building a life, excited about the future. I threw myself into being the perfect wife, cooking, cleaning, hosting dinner parties for his colleagues, making sure everything was just right. He appreciated me then. He noticed. He said I was amazing, that he couldn't have done it without me. Then the children came. Sarah first, then Matthew. I became a mother, and that consumed me completely. I loved every minute of it, the chaos, the exhaustion, the joy. I was good at it. I was natural. I poured everything I had into those kids, and they thrived. Robert thrived too. His career took off. He became a vice president, then a senior vice president, then something even fancier. He traveled. He worked late. He came home exhausted and distracted, and I understood. I was patient. I was supportive. I was the rock he could always count on. But somewhere along the way, I stopped being a person to him. I became a function, a service, a piece of furniture that cooked and cleaned and raised children and asked for nothing in return. He stopped saying thank you. He stopped noticing. He stopped seeing me at all. I told myself it was fine. This was marriage. This was commitment. This was what I'd signed up for. I didn't need appreciation. I didn't need recognition. I had my children, my home, my purpose. That was enough. It wasn't enough. I just didn't know it yet. The years passed in a blur of routine. I woke up first, made his coffee, packed his lunch. I got the kids ready for school, made breakfast, drove carpool. I cleaned the house, did the laundry, went grocery shopping. I made dinner, helped with homework, got the kids to bed. I waited for him to come home, and when he did, I served his dinner and listened to him talk about his day. He never asked about mine. He never wondered what I did, what I thought, what I felt. My day was invisible because my work was invisible. Cooking, cleaning, raising children, it didn't count. It wasn't real. It wasn't valuable. I remember one conversation. Years ago, that should have been a warning. We were at a dinner party with his colleagues. The women were talking about their careers, lawyers, doctors, executives. One of them turned to me and asked what I did. I opened my mouth to answer, but Robert spoke first. "Oh, Alina doesn't work," he said, laughing. "She's a kept woman." He meant it as a joke. Everyone laughed. I laughed too because that's what you do. But inside, something shriveled, something died. I didn't work, I stayed home. I raised his children and managed his home and supported his career. But I didn't work, because work is what you get paid for. Work is what counts. Work is what makes you a person. I wasn't a person. I was a kept woman. After that, I started noticing things. Small things. The way he'd sigh when I asked for help with something. The way he'd talk over me at dinner parties. The way he'd introduce me as my wife without ever using my name. The way he stopped touching me. Not just sex, touching. A hand on the shoulder, a kiss goodbye, a hug for no reason. That stopped years ago, and I'd told myself it was normal that marriages go through phases, that he was just tired. He wasn't tired, he just didn't see me anymore. It happened on a Tuesday night in March. A completely ordinary Tuesday. Nothing special about it, nothing different. The kids were grown now, Sarah in college, Matthew a senior in high school. The house was quiet, emptier than it used to be. I'd made meatloaf, his favorite, because I still did that, still tried to please him, still hoped he'd notice. He came home late, as always. He sat down at the table, as always. He picked up his fork, as always. He took a bite, chewed, swallowed, and then he looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Cold, flat, empty. He said, "Elena, we need to talk." I put down my fork. I waited. He said, "I've been thinking for a long time, and I've realized something." I waited. He said, "You're completely useless." The words hung in the air between us. I couldn't process them. They didn't make sense. Useless? Me? After 20 years of cooking and cleaning and raising his children and supporting his career and being his wife. He kept talking. He said he'd been with someone else for 2 years. Someone who worked, who had a career, who was interesting and ambitious and worth his time. Someone who wasn't me. He said I'd never contributed anything. I'd never worked, never earned, never been anything but a drain on his resources. He said he deserved better. He said he was leaving. I sat there, frozen, as he explained the logistics. He'd already talked to a lawyer. He'd already filed papers. He'd already rented an apartment. He'd already done everything. I was just the last to know. He stood up. He looked at me one last time, that cold, flat look, and said, "You can keep the house. It's the least I can do. But don't expect anything else. You don't deserve it." And then he walked out. I sat at that table for hours. The meatloaf got cold. The beer got warm. The night got dark. I sat there, staring at nothing, hearing those words over and over. Useless, useless, useless. 20 years of my life. 20 years of sacrifice and love and devotion. And he'd reduced it to one word. Useless. The weeks after he left were the darkest of my life. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't eat. I couldn't stop hearing that word. Useless. It played on a loop in my head day and night, a constant reminder that everything I'd given had meant nothing. My children tried to help. Sarah came home from college for a weekend. She held me while I cried. She said Dad was wrong, that I wasn't useless, that she loved me. I wanted to believe her, but the word was too loud. Matthew was angrier. He stopped speaking to his father completely. He told me he'd always known Dad was a jerk. He said I deserved better. He said he'd never forgive him. Their love helped. It kept me alive, but it didn't fix the hole inside me. That hole was mine alone. I started seeing a therapist. A kind woman named Dr. Chen, who specialized in women who'd lost their identities in marriages. She listened to my story without judgment, and then she asked me a question that changed everything. She said, "Elena, if Robert had never existed, who would you be?" I didn't know. I literally didn't know. I'd spent 20 years being his wife, his support system, his shadow. I had no idea who I was without him. Dr. Chen said, "Then let's find out." Finding myself at 47 was terrifying. It was also the most exciting thing I'd ever done. I started small. I made a list of things I'd always wanted to try but never had. Things Robert would have dismissed as silly or impractical. Things that were just for me. I took a painting class. I'd loved art as a child before life got in the way. I was terrible at it, truly terrible, but I didn't care. The feel of the brush, the smell of the paint, the way colors mixed and swirled, it was magic, pure magic. I joined a book club. Real books, not the bestsellers Robert liked. I read things that challenged me, moved me, changed me. I talked about them with women who listened, who cared, who saw me. I started exercising. Not to lose weight. Robert had never complained about my body, but he'd also never noticed it. I exercised because it made me feel strong, because it cleared my head, because it was mine. And then something unexpected happened. I discovered I was good at things, really good. I'd always been organized. Running a household for 20 years will do that. I'd always been good with people. Raising children and managing Robert's social life taught me that. I'd always been a problem solver. You can't keep a family running without solving 1,000 problems a day. These skills, the ones Robert called useless, were actually valuable. Incredibly valuable. I just hadn't known it because no one had ever told me. The idea came to me in the middle of the night, like all good ideas do. I was lying awake, thinking about my life, my skills, my future. And I thought, there must be other women like me. Women who have spent years managing homes and families and lives, who have developed incredible skills that no one values because they don't come with a paycheck. What if someone helped those women translate their skills into careers? What if someone showed them that being a homemaker wasn't being useless? It was being a CEO of a small organization, with all the skills that entails. I sat up in bed. My heart was pounding. I grabbed a notebook and started writing. Budgeting. I'd managed our household finances for 20 years. I knew how to stretch $1, plan for expenses, save for the future. Scheduling. I'd coordinated 3 people's lives, doctor appointments, school events, social obligations for 2 decades. I could manage any calendar. Conflict resolution. I'd mediated fights between children, between Robert and the kids, between Robert and me. I knew how to listen, how to negotiate, how to find common ground. Project management. Renovating the kitchen, planning vacations, organizing holiday dinners. I'd done it all. I knew how to plan, execute, and deliver. These weren't useless skills. These were executive skills, and I had them in abundance. I spent the next month researching, planning, preparing. I took online courses in business management. I wrote a business plan. I created a website. I called my new venture The Homemaker's Advantage, a consulting service helping women transition from home to workforce. I had no idea if it would work, but for the first time in 20 years, I had something that was mine. Completely, totally, beautifully mine. Launching a business at 48 is terrifying. Launching a business with no money, no contacts, no experience, even more terrifying. But I had something that mattered more than all of that. I had nothing to lose. Robert had taken everything he could. The settlement was minimal. He had better lawyers, deeper pockets, and a judge who believed his version of events. I got the house, barely, and a small amount of spousal support that would run out in 3 years. That was it. I had to make it work. There was no other option. I started small. I offered free consultations to friends, then friends of friends. I helped them write resumes, practice interviews, identify transferable skills. I charged nothing, just asked for testimonials. The testimonials came, and they were good, really good. One woman, Margaret, had been a stay-at-home mom for 25 years. She was terrified of re-entering the workforce. I helped her see that running a household was running an organization. She got a job as an office manager within 3 months. Another woman, Diane, had been a military wife, moving every 2 years, never able to build a career. I helped her frame her adaptability and resilience as assets. She got a job in project management. Word spread, slowly at first, then faster. I started charging small fees, then larger ones. I hired a virtual assistant, my first employee. I rented a small office, my first real space. Within 2 years, the homemaker's advantage was a real business, with real clients, with real revenue, with real impact. I was no longer useless. I was useful. I was valuable. I was successful. I saw Robert again, 3 years after he left. It was at a charity gala, the kind of event I used to attend as his wife, invisible in the background. Now I was there as a guest, a sponsor, a success. I almost didn't recognize him. He looked older, tired, diminished. The woman on his arm was younger, beautiful. Clinging to him like a prize, she looked bored. He looked desperate. He saw me across the room. I saw the moment of recognition, the confusion, the disbelief, the dawning horror. I was wearing a red dress, elegant and confident. I was talking to people who mattered, people who respected me. I was everything he'd said I couldn't be. He approached me. His companion drifted away, sensing danger. He said my name like a question, like he wasn't sure it was really me. I smiled. I said hello, Robert. I said it was good to see him. I lied. He asked what I was doing there. I told him. I told him about my business, my success, my life. I told him calmly, quietly, without gloating, just facts. He stared at me. He said he didn't know. He said he was impressed. He said he was sorry. I looked at this man, the man who had called me useless, who had left me for someone better, who had taken 20 years of my life and thrown them away, and I felt nothing. No anger, no hurt, no satisfaction, nothing. He was a stranger, just a stranger who used to live in my house. I said I accepted his apology. I said I hoped he was happy. I said I had to go, I was giving a speech later, and I needed to prepare. I walked away. I didn't look back. That night, I gave a speech to 500 people. I told them my story, the meatloaf, the word, the years of invisibility. I told them about the women I'd helped, the lives I'd changed, the business I'd built. I told them that being a homemaker wasn't being useless. It was being a CEO of a small organization with all the skills that entails. I told them that the work women do in their homes is real work, valuable work, work that deserves respect. I looked out at the audience and saw faces I recognized. My daughter, Sarah, in the front row, crying with pride. My son, Matthew, next to her, applauding wildly. Friends I'd made along the way, clients whose lives I'd touched. And in the back, near the door, a figure I almost didn't see. Robert, standing alone, watching. His face was unreadable. I didn't care. He was nothing to me now, just a witness to my triumph. After the speech, people surrounded me, congratulating me, thanking me, sharing their own stories. I was surrounded by love, by connection, by community. I thought about that Tuesday night years ago, the cold meatloaf, the beer, the word that was supposed to destroy me. Useless. He called me useless, and I spent the rest of my life proving him wrong. So here I am, 51 years old, successful, happy, whole. My business has helped thousands of women. I've been featured in magazines, interviewed on podcasts, invited to speak around the world. I've won awards I never dreamed of. I've built a life that is mine, completely and beautifully mine. My children are thriving. Sarah works with me now, running the marketing department. Matthew is in law school, planning to specialize in women's rights. They're proud of me. They see me. That's everything. Robert, I hear things. His second marriage didn't last. His career stalled. He's alone now in a small apartment, living on memories and regret. I don't wish him ill. I don't wish him anything. He's just not part of my story anymore. The word useless doesn't echo in my head anymore. It's been replaced by other words. Capable, strong, successful, loved, worthy. He called me useless. He was wrong. I was never useless. I was just waiting. Waiting for the moment when I'd discover my own worth. Waiting for the moment when I'd step into the light. Waiting for the moment when I'd prove to myself, not to him but to myself, that I was capable of anything. If you're listening to this and someone has made you feel useless, a partner, a parent, a boss, a voice in your own head, hear me. They're wrong. You're not useless. You're not worthless. You're not nothing. You are capable of more than you know. You are stronger than you think. You are worthy of love, respect, success, happiness. And one day you'll prove it. Not to them, to yourself. That's the only proof that matters. He called me useless after 20 years of marriage. I spent the rest of my life proving him wrong. And it was the best thing I ever did. Thanks for listening. If you want to hear more story like this, please like the video and subscribe the channel. Hit the bell icon to get notified.